Call the meeting to order for the day. First item is approval of today's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Citizens to be heard. Any citizens on any issue not on the agenda? Seeing none. Approval of payment of bills and vouchers.
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second to pay the bills. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Darren, market study and reclassification. Darren Brooks.
Good
morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Oh, Steve's gonna join me up here. Nice.
Always good to have backup, Darren.
I need the backup today. That's good. Well, thanks for having me this morning, and this has been a long process, I can tell you. We started this last year, and just we've had some closed sessions, we've had some open sessions, and we kind of have two parallel things coming together: the market study and the benefits plan that we have, that the insurance committee has also been working on for about 2 years maybe to get everything completed there. And so what I want to do for this open meeting is kind of review where we started and where we came and where we are now, and then hopefully get some direction and guidance from the board after today's meeting. The first thing with the review is that the last market study was done in 2008-2009 time period, so almost 10 years ago. And according to the U.S. National Bureau of Economic Research, the last recession started right about that time, between December 2007 and ended in June of 2009. So the last time the market study was done was right in the middle of the recession. As you know from today's economic plan or economic conditions, is that we're in a much better state than we were back in 2007 to 2009. Also, according to the Department of Labor, the average wage increases throughout the U.S. for the past 11 months has been 3.1%. And at last estimate, there's approximately 7.3 million job openings throughout the U.S. and Minnesota, having one of the lowest unemployment rates of 3.2%. So we're in very good shape there. The dynamics are greatly different from the last time the market study was performed, and low unemployment rates and higher wages make it harder to recruit, hire, and retain top talent in today's economic environment. This dynamic economy makes it essential that Clay County remains competitive in the job market. In 2008, we had 488 employees. As of today, we have 560 employees. When we did the last comp study, it was done by Bjorklund, and we used 16 comparable counties. Fargo and Cass County, North Dakota were not included in that comp study. So last year, on September 4th, 2018, permission was sought and approved to go out for a market study by the board. From September through December of 2018, I researched a lot of different providers of market studies and comp studies throughout the state. Got a lot of feedback from other counties within the state on who they used for their market studies, and we narrowed it down to 3 that we thought would be the best. On December 27th, 2018, the board approved David Drown Associates to conduct that market study. From January to March, the position description questionnaires or job descriptions were updated and submitted by all the department heads, and those were then submitted to David Drown for their use in the market study. From April through May of this year, the market study was done by David Drown, and on June 11th, 2019, preliminary results were presented to the board by Tessa Melton, who is our contact at David Drown. The board gave guidance for templating costs based on those results of the study and the market averages. On August 6, 2019, Tessa Melvin presented the board the final numbers and cost to fully implement the market study and bring the 2019 grid up to market average. And the findings were that originally we had submitted 40 positions out of the 132 to be benchmark positions. Those positions were selected based on other counties having similar positions as well, so we could get good market data on them. positions like social workers, deputies, public health nurses, those type of things. So most every county has those type of positions. This time we also added, we used the same 16 comparable counties after we re-looked at those, and we also included Fargo, North Dakota, and Cass County, North Dakota, since we're a border state with them, and a lot of our employees and job seekers come from that area as well. For the juvenile detention center, we went out and looked outside of the county a little bit because not all counties have juvenile detention centers, so that one was kind of a unique department that we had to look at, and also our medical detox. Not many counties, if any counties, have a medical detox, so we had to go to some of the privates to get some good wage data on that. The initial findings indicated that Clay County was a little bit below average in market value in several of the job categories. 22 positions were identified below the 94% mark and were evaluated for reclassification. What this means is 22 positions were reevaluated to move them up a grade. So if they were on grade 10, to bring them back into market, we may move them a grade or two higher. This affected approximately 96 employees, and the cost to move them to the correct grade would be approximately about a little shy of $57,000. Once the market study implementation costs were considered, it was determined that some of the changes in the benefit packages would also be required, since this was a separate project but was running parallel to the market study. Those proposed changes were discussed in an open board meeting on August 13th, 2019, and if you recall, the board gave me permission to use those suggested changes to go into negotiations with our 9 union bargaining units. Some of them are benefit reopeners only, and some of them are actual contract negotiations. Just should be noted that those benefit changes were unanimously voted on and approved by the insurance committee, which has union members as representatives on that committee as well. In order to implement the changes for both market study and the benefit changes, Clay County will enter into union negotiations with all bargaining unions beginning at 9 o'clock today, which is in 20 minutes. I have four union negotiations today, and then hopefully all of them will have their first meeting prior to the end of September. So that's what we're shooting for right now. It is hoped through the bargaining process that all the recommendations, both the market study and the benefits, can be settled and implemented by January 1st, 2020. It is also a recommendation that the 22 positions that were identified to be reclassified through the market study be initiated starting with the payroll following board approval for that. So we would like to get those. That would be a normal process if we were to reclassify positions. Just when I was doing it before, if it was agreed upon, then those positions would be reclassified right away. The other thing is that it would bring those 22 positions into alignment before the market study results go into effect in 2020. So it looks like the market study basically said that our 2019 grid was 5.42% below market, and so that would be the recommendation for the board.
Okay, good summary of the study. Any questions for Darren? I think we've gone over this quite a bit, and so at this point, I guess we'll wait to hear back from you after you start your negotiations with employees and.
Okay. You say we're about 5.4% under market study. I mean, what does that mean? I mean, that the whole group is 5.4%?
Right. What they do is they take those 40 or 47 benchmark positions, and then they go out to look at all of those other 18 comparable counties and cities. Well, city would be the Fargo. They do then look at the whole grid on where everybody would be. So they determine that using those 47 benchmark positions, that our grid in general is 5.42% below
So you're saying all of our employees should have 5.4?
Right, it would just be like, when you increase the grid by, like this year was 2%, the whole grid goes up by 2%. It would be the same thing with this market study.
So the 5.4%, does that include the 2% that we're giving?
That does not. That would be in addition to.
Kevin?
Mr. Chair, I think we have a couple of different issues here, and I'd like to address the first one being the 22 job descriptions that do not meet where they should be at. And I think that should be corrected immediately. And having said that, and then I'll get back to the others later, but I would like to move that we go forward with the bringing those 22 positions up based on the recommendation.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on this item. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And then, Mr. Chair, in regards to the 5.42%, I think if you do the numbers on that, then it's an incredibly large amount of money that has to do, and part of this process, as we've talked about this, was finally coming to where we can have a benefits package be about benefits and a compensation package be about compensation. And, so I think, as you go forward with your negotiations, moving forward, I think in order for me anyway to support that full 5.42, we have to have those adjustments in the benefits package. And I think our board talked about that and has agreed on that. So, so I think that can be the message as far as I'm concerned, that it will not have a negative impact on any current employee whatsoever.
Correct.
And I think that needs to be the message, but moving forward at some point in time to do what even the insurance committee wanted to do, was to make benefits be about benefits and compensation about compensation. This is the way we have to do this, and I don't think we can have one without the other.
Right.
So,
Yeah, these two things were running parallel for a long time, and,
Right.
and they basically merged into I think, a win-win for everybody. It may be an initial big cost to bring everybody up to market, but I think in the long run, with the benefit changes, which we have discussed in an open meeting a couple weeks ago, it will be beneficial for the county in the long run to get the benefits under control as well. And like you said, any current employee that is current employees are going to be grandfathered into the plans that we have now. Most of the changes that are going to be taking place in the benefits would be for new employees that are hired after January 1st of 2020.
Jenny?
So as someone who's been part of the PIC committee for the last year and a half, I think it's important to note the reason why we did the market study is because we had department heads continually coming to us because of openings and people leaving elsewhere because of pay discrepancies with the private sector. And so I think that I'm hopeful that this will help to alleviate that, to make sure that positions are being paid what they need to. But just to piggyback off of what Commissioner Campbell said in terms of compensation, be about compensation and wages and benefits, for us to be able to advertise pay that really is what the fair market is, and not have someone get hired and then realize that the benefits package is a little bit more than what they really need to pay for. So I think to be able to align that is going to be incredibly important going forward to fill those positions that have been difficult to keep people in. And I think in the long term, not only will this be more fair for employees, but this will save us money in terms of continually needing to recruit for new employees.
Right.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Mojo, as a board, you've been hiring people higher than what we started in order to recruit them in. And so this adjustment is already taking place. You all are just having to adjust that grid in order to make that happen.
Yeah, it's a good point because 90% of our employees have single coverage, which means many of them get some kind of cash back, which is really a kind of hidden wage per se. But if we are going to then be able to advertise that wage at the higher rate with the increases and cut back on that cash back, it's going to be a lot better for recruiting when we can publish that new wage in our advertisements.
Speaking of that, something that did come up after our last board meeting, when you talk about the cashback issue, I do want to talk about that for a minute, because our goal was, starting it with the new hires, is that there would be no cashback payments. So after talking with Lori, that does create somewhat of an issue if you on our proposed new cafeteria plan in today's dollars for a single person be $853. Well, with whatever they select, and if they select for example, a high deductible plan, it gets down to where there still could be $316 left. Well, so our message is well, you have to use that $316 to buy other benefit-related items, available. Whether it's dental, whether it's long-term care, cancer. There's a lot of opportunities that they can use that money for. But the end result is to get that to net out at zero. It's almost impossible to do. And Lori, jump in if you can. But so I think we've kind of talked about where we would like to see where the net cash payout at the end could not exceed $20. Mm-hmm. So I think that would give them every opportunity to pick and spend that money up to, because and what makes it difficult is once you start buying all these supplemental policies, the premium amounts can be different based on age and all these other factors. Right. And so to get it to zero out to exactly $853 would be almost impossible. And
Right.
Lori, am I explaining that correctly?
Yeah, correct. So most likely there's going to be a little bit left that would need to be paid out in cash. So we would just have to use that remainder to be paid out in cash, but we want to keep that to a minimum.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes.
And I think that's a good way of putting it, is to keep it to a minimum. They can also put it into an HSA, the remaining balance into an HSA, which if you have a high deductible plan, it would make sense to put that into an HSA or Viva so that you can pay the higher deductible if you ever need it.
But I think just from what we talked about though, just because it would be a nightmare for Jennifer.
Yeah, I'd probably lose her.
To try to get every one of those where they would buy, so they would come down to zero amount of cash. So I think as you talk to on this process with the benefits, if the rest of the board agrees, I think that we should probably also include that as what we're targeting as a threshold for probably a maximum cash payout. I think that would be.
Yeah, and I would like to work the numbers a little bit on that,
Yeah,
and what that maximum should be. We did a little bit of the numbers already, and it's probably, if you're single, it'd be $40 or $80. I can't remember how
That's
much.
too much.
But like I said, that can be put into an HSA.
Right.
The problem that we have is some people can't have an HSA if they're double covered. So where do you put that money?
But they can buy other things.
They can obviously buy other things, supplemental life or anything like that.
Sure.
Would certainly be applicable as well.
Again, those are benefits.
Yep.
This isn't about compensation.
Yep.
That's why.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that by adjusting the way that we give the calculation for the county contribution will cut down the amount of cash back either, because now, as you know, we were using the triple gold family for everybody.
Right.
And by using this new formula, the cash back is gonna be reduced greatly.
And again, if you get cash back that goes on your W-2, it's compensation.
Correct.
And
It's taxable income.
that's what we're trying to get away from on this. Benefits is benefits.
Yes.
Jenny?
Well, I'll make a motion to allow HR to start union negotiations using the market study findings for the 2020 budget year, and then the final approval of the market study increase will be determined at a later date.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Jenny?
Just one follow-up, Commissioner Campbell and I, when we were in December determining which company we'd go through, I know that our end date was really September at the latest, and so I
Yep.
know that your department has really worked hard to get all of this in motion, and so thank you, Darren, to you and Jennifer and Steve and Lori and whoever else was part of that for your work on this.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, good work. It's all about retaining and obtaining the best possible employees to serve our
Right.
citizens, so
Right.
that's what we're doing
Agree.
this for, so. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see. Request acceptance of burn justice assistance grants for independent living skills program. Josh, good morning.
Josh is here this
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm here today to request that we accept a grant through the Department of Justice. The grant is for $257,000 over a 2-year term. We are not requesting to add any positions because of this grant. Rather, we are requesting to use the funds as outlined in the grant to pay for 2 positions in our Independent Living Skills program we're calling the CLIPS program. The original grant that was submitted in July didn't reflect these funds, but the original budget that was submitted in July didn't reflect these funds. The budget James presented last week did.
Any questions for Josh on this? We've had a discussion about this, and, these positions are positions that we would have anyway, so this is really a good thing for the county right now, so. And I think when we talk to James, there's a possibility that, there might be money in the future too for some of this, so it's a good thing, Kevin.
Yeah, Mr. So the independent living skills and the CLIPS program, that's part of, is that when they get to non-secure?
Yep, it's under the umbrella of the non-secure program. It'll be available to Clay County.
Okay, right.
Clay County.
So that 257 would be revenue towards the revenue side for the non-secure part
Correct,
only?
yep.
Okay, right. That's good.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the grant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the grant. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thanks, Josh.
Just got another one.
One more, I'm also here to request that we refill 2 positions in our secure unit. These are positions that are in the 2019 budget, and we would see a savings of about $15,000 due to the pay difference and the lag in the benefits between the 2 positions. And then likewise, would like to request any backfill to the position.
Make a motion to approve the request of backfill.
Second.
Motion and a second on the 2 positions. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. There you go, Josh. Thank you. Budget review. Dave, County Engineers Office.
Morning.
Good morning.
I brought some backup just in case I need. So I went through a budget a little bit, trying to figure out how I'm going to run across this, and I think I just simply will try to break it down into our 4 sections a little bit and explain some of the highs and lows. Lori and Steve and I sat down last week and went through things a little bit, and so road and bridge department's made up of 4 sections. I think I've said this before, but we got maintenance, construction, administration, and shop. And looking at our current budget, to date, we haven't had a real good year so far with the spring and the spring flooding that we had. We are getting very close to budget on fuel. I think I'm within about 84% of our fuel.
43, maybe?
Sorry, Dave, we're
That's okay.
page numbers here, so.
About 84% of our fuel budget's already been expended. We haven't started our fall mowing cut. We also got equipment repair that we're getting close on. We had a lot of repairs this spring with the amount of work that we did, as well as our overtime budget's probably about $20,000 over. The one thing is we will be hopefully getting FEMA grants in the tune of about $200,000. I think that should backfill most, if not all, of that overage expenses on fuel and
Can I
overtime.
just ask, so Lori, so on the reimbursements for FEMA, that will, those dollars sometimes lag?
Yeah, about a year typically, right? So we won't be able to recognize it most likely in this year,
Okay.
and we'll get it next year.
Okay, so we recognize those dollars in the year we get them then?
Unless it comes in January, February.
Then you can make.
Then we can recognize it, but if it comes in past that, then we can't.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sorry.
Yep, no problem. So I guess this is a little snapshot of where we're at today, and we have a few budget items that are coming over. Not a big surprise with the spring that we had, and hopefully we get funding to, maybe if we get lucky, we'll get money to show by January or February of next year. Start off, notable items for the 2020 budget. Under 10-310, which is highway maintenance, 10-310, 6105. I think that's our regular salaries. As you can see, we're only up 0.24%, which is very good. Normally, it's quite a bit above that, just with the cost of living and step raises and things like that. The reason that one is that only 0.24% is we get a lot of new employees, retirements and things going out, so the newer employees are hired less. So I just thought that was kind of notable. We're low on that, which is good. 10-310, 6454, I believe that's uniforms. This is a kind of what we call a boot year. So the maintenance and the union employees, they get boots one year, and then they get spring and summer clothing the next year. And boots are obviously a lot more expensive. So this being a boot year, it's up quite a bit percent. It went from $1,800 to $4,375. It kind of rotates every other year or so. And then 10-310, 6502. That's our road materials. That's probably the biggest increase. We lowered that a little bit. I would like to bring that back up if I could, about $30,000. The money that was lowered the previous year was to hire an additional employee. Would like to bring that back up so we can keep. The biggest thing is we've been really light on graveling the last few years. We've been having a lot of extra maintenance dollars. We've been using those for construction projects and putting gravel up. But with Kim on board and working with our motor grader operators, he's noticing our gravel roads really need graveling. We added probably over $200 additional $1,000 of gravel this year, and we'd like to keep doing that. We had some dig out spots that we did this year, and as you dig the road out, you can see how much gravel you really don't have out there. And I guess we would like to concentrate more dollars on putting gravel on our roads. And you know, I mean, a lot of you either live out there, or Frank, I know you're out there visiting with the townships, as well as you, Jenny. The residents are noticing that our roads aren't in the best of shape, and the gravel roads carry a lot of, a lot of our farm to market things. A lot of locals live out on the gravel roads, and I guess that was what the biggest things we'd like to get more money in maintenance and put it on the gravel if we could. On the next page, under 10-320, highway construction. On the revenue side, you can see our revenues went up. We do have 6 federal aid bridge projects. We'll be getting federal aid for 6 bridge removals, as well as we've got shoulder paving on County Road 14, which is by the Glendon Piler. So we've got additional federal aid dollars coming into our budget. You'll see a big reduction in municipal state aid to the tune of like 1.3 million. So what happened was in 2019, we've got a big project in Glendon where we're spending municipal state aid. 2020, we don't have any expenditures because Typically what you do is you spend them and then you build them up for a few years and spend them again, so.
Are you saying we're gonna get some bridge funds this year, or?
2020, yep. Yep, the state kind of worked with us a little bit. There was federal aid. Normally we get, a lot of our bridge replacements come through the state bridge bonding fund. These are actually federal, it's called BROS. I think it's called Bridges on System monies, but anyway, it's federal aid dollars for bridge replacement. So what it does is it takes those projects off the bridge bond list. So we probably got 8 or 10 projects on the bridge bonding master list, and 6 of them will come off and be funded by federal aid. Yep. You know, like last year, the last 2 years, I don't think we've had any bridge bond funds. You know, they've been kind of pulling that money back on when they do their
We
budget.
didn't have that federal money into our 5-year plan.
Yep, yeah, it's in there. Mhm. Yep, it's on, yep, there, it's the red column of dollars on there, but yeah, there's 6 of them on there. Next thing to notice is 10-320-6232. That's advertising costs. For some reason, we just kind of got skewed off on that a little bit. Advertising is outrageously expensive. There's no real good way to do it. I think by law, we have to advertise in the local papers, and we have $1,500 budgeted for this current year, and we've moved that up to $6,000 just to match the trend on what we've actually been spending. So we're just trying to capture actual costs on that. And then 10-320-6630, that's just the same thing as that revenue with the municipal state aid. We showed 1.33 this year, and we show 0 in 2020. And then the next column down, or a couple of columns down, is 10-320-6632. Now this is kind of goofy looking too, and the reason is we've been paying our bond payment back for about the last 5 years. So this is the first year, 2020, where we have no bond payment, and that bond payment is showed in a separate part of the budget. Is that correct, Lori?
Yep.
So now instead of that payment showing it, now it's all showed up in where it belongs. So we can actually spend $6.375 million instead of $2.5 million short, which was our bond payment. So that's the big increase there. Next page, 10-330, which is highway administration. 330-6631. We show a little increase there for going to, that's our registration for conferences, for training. Justin and I are hopeful that we'd able to go to the NACE conference again. There's Transportation Alliance conferences that I go to last year. Me and Administrator Larson went to it, and I think it's beneficial. Ann's accounting conference as well. That money comes out of there, and there's some funds in there to send Justin to bridge inspector training. We've had a bridge inspector retired, and right now we need a team lead. So we're going to utilize some of our retired. We're going to basically bring our retiree back to help us out, as there's certain requirements. You have to have a team lead with those certifications, as well as we're going to send Justin there. We've also sent Seth there, but having a backup, I think, is kind of a good idea rather than just having one person in case someone were to leave us again and that sort of thing. So there's an increase of $1,500 there, and then 10-330-6333. There again, most of that increase is paying for the course. It is expensive. It's a 2-week course. We put an additional $3,500 in there to cover the cost for bridge inspection training. On the last page, 10-340, highway equipment, maintenance, and shop. Equipment repair and maintenance, which is 340-6302. We'd like to increase that by $5,000 just to make sure we don't get behind on repairing our equipment. We did have quite a, had a tough winter in 2018, and I believe that's kind of, never know if you're going to have that again. 340-6410. That's a wild card, and I believe Lori and I have been really trying to dial that in. I think 2 years ago it was at 370,000, and we lowered it down to 310. In 2018 and 2019 we lowered it to 300, and things were going really good. Now we're going to be over again, so I guess we just kind of try to capture where the cost of fuel is and how much we're expending depending on the weather, but we're going to be short, so I guess proposing to move that one up to 350,000, so it would be a $50,000 increase. 340-6454 is uniforms again. That's lowered because the shop staffs are on a non-boot year, so theirs goes down. And then 10-340-6607 is internal service fund. I think generally our highway department budget is on the low side. When we started internal service fund, we were never fully funded on that, and we've been trying to ratchet that up in the past several years, and I believe that was a $100,000 increase. So
Just a question on the bond payments that he said. Now you won't have a bond payment. I don't know whether your budget's separate from the rest of it. Weren't our bond payments supposed to go to the jail fund or something like that, or is this different to Highway Department?
Different.
Yeah.
It's a different group then, okay.
Yeah, this one was basically our capital project that we did, was it 5 years ago, Lori?
Right, well, these were state aid road bonds.
Yeah,
And so
Oh,
they
that's
were funded by our state aid and not by our levy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we used our gas tax dollars for 5 years in a row to pay back that $10.6 million bond that we took.
Yeah, I remember.
So in essence, what we did is we moved projects up to get them done early. And that's what this was.
Yeah, no, I got it now, thank you.
I do, Lori, and so first, Dave, you had sent me an email or a while back, you were concerned about your fuel costs, that you were exceeding your budget dollars already.
No, well, we were getting close.
Getting close?
Yeah, I
Because
looked,
this doesn't show that on
Yeah.
here, because this is,
Around 80%, is that what you said?
I think 84%.
okay.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm wondering is, some of these numbers, if we can, I mean, if we leave them in the preliminary budget now, Lori, but if we can kind of flag some of them to look at December to see, and if it turns out that
Oh, sure.
we've caught up, then maybe that's something that we can look at
Not going up.
taking
over.
back a little bit in December as opposed to September. But I think there's several things like that we can probably leave them in the preliminary budget, but as we get to December, we can get a little bit more accurate on what actually happened in 2019.
Gotcha.
Oh, for no snow.
Maybe certain.
Well, but then, you even look at the conditions right now, and fuel is, dropping even more again now, so that also can have an impact on, we can't guarantee it's gonna stay all of 2020 that way, but.
Anything else?
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Committee reports. Jenny, go ahead.
Thank you. Yesterday I attended the Lakeland Mental Health Board meeting at the Moorhead site. Good discussion. We had the audit report from Clifton Larson Allen. Then we had reports from the management team and Moorhead supervisors. It was really good to hear from those people about all of the different programs going on in Clay County, specifically with the schools, jail, river project, and I think it was good for the other commissioners from other counties to hear about the different collaboration with the crisis unit and our police department and sheriff's office. So I think that was a good thing. One item to note is that the usage in the schools, currently there's about 40 children per school in Moorhead that are using Lakeland Mental Health Services, and the numbers in Barnesville are going up too, so that only reiterates the importance for us to continue to support those collaborations. That concludes my reports. The other piece I did have is we are getting close to the time of year where we plan the small cities meeting. We've done that at the end of September and sometimes the beginning of October, and I'd like to see if we could get that on the calendar. Again, a suggestion that I would have is based on our discussions about economic development and all the different economic development organizations in Clay County, if there is much collaboration between the two, I'd like to see if we could reach out to the smaller cities, EDAs as well, to attend, and then just to have a discussion about any joint collaboration going forward, if that would be worthwhile. Other than that, I spent 5 days at the state fair, so I'm happy to be home.
Kevin?
All right, last week, diversion, public outreach, and land management meetings were canceled last week, and then on Thursday, the 22nd, we held our MCC JPA meeting, and that one, the key action items that happened is we approved 5 different appraisal companies to do appraisal services, in Clay County for this project. And we approved 3 land firms services, 3 different companies there. So the appraisals go out and do the appraisals on the property, and then the land services, those are agencies that go out and start the negotiation process with all the landowners. So that, they're 2 different. And all of that, of course, is funded through the diversion authority, so. Those were the major items that happened at that meeting. And then at 3:30 that day, we had our regular diversion authority meeting. And the item to note there was that we did vote and approved a contract with Joel Paulson for our executive director. So that is now complete. He is to start working on Tuesday, September 3rd. So I'm anxious to have him on board. There were several other reports. There was an update from the Army Corps. They continue to work on that gated inlet structure. They've got all that drained out now, so they'll start doing construction work. I think they're going out for bids on the wild rice control structure in September. That will probably be another probably $50-some million federal project that the feds are paying for. Work will probably, is anticipated to start later this fall. However, not a lot of dirt work will probably happen until the road restrictions come off in the spring of 2020. Then yesterday, we had a diversion chairs coordinating executive committee meeting, and some of these same things were talked about again. We did talk about a CLOMAR notification. A CLOMAR is where they're basically doing FEMA is doing a map revision of the Honeydew floodplain, and they're doing that with the proposed project in place. And so they want a letter that's going to go out to all the different communities around that might be impacted on it, just updating them on what's going on. So we're looking at doing that soon. There was a little bit of discussion about the timing of some of the legal issues that are going on in the courts. We learned that the Becker County judge that was assigned the project had recused himself, so we're not sure if that's going to delay a little bit the dates that originally were set. And I think a new judge has been assigned. Judge Fritz has been assigned that case, and we'll see what happens. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Frank?
Last Tuesday, Kevin and I met with a few people at the transfer station as far as relocating, possible relocation, or whatever, just not relocating, just assuring that we are looking at that transfer station and that is the right spot for it or whatever. So after that, I had the behavioral unit committee that we got together on and looked at some numbers and looking at the fee schedules and stuff like that, what it's costing the county to place our home placements and stuff like that. From there, that night I went to the planning commission meeting. There I probably got carried away with some of the rules that we make people go through to get a permit and stuff like that, and it's just amazing that somehow we don't have that extra page of common sense, just to let them do what they, it's a simple procedure, but we make them to go through all kinds of forms and stuff like that, and we did approve a second dwelling on the place that they asked for. Also, Joel Paulson resigned from the group, so we're going to be looking for a replacement there because he's getting off the Moorhead City Council. Wednesday, the Historical Society. There again, big discussion there. The more Cindy's asking for about a $50,000 rental fee for the Historical Society over there. So that would be a big budget item there. I mean, that's something that's really going to hit the Historical Society. So you have to look for some funds or try and negotiate a different type of agreement of some sort, you know. So we're working on that. Thursday, I had another great new experience. I got to go to court. It was something new for me. But that turned out okay, where we had our restraining order put on, and that worked out all right. Yesterday morning, I went to swearing in of a new deputy at Jeff, I don't know his last name. Kleckner, okay. And also, Dave Johnson was promoted to lieutenant, so we had that yesterday morning. And I think the one other concern that I've had with residents is the fact that up in Georgetown, there's some dumping of some trees that Kevin and I have been discussing, that we have to get a meeting on, that whether that dumping will continue or we'll have to find a different spot, so.
Was that the last big part of your report?
Yeah.
Because I was going to add to that. I received a call, prior to the call that I received from Commissioner Gross, I received a call from a person who was hired to remove a lot of trees from the Red River that were caused by the flood. And, you know, I'm assuming that this is through the watershed. And he called me up saying that he wanted to take them to the Moritz compost site, and they refused them at the compost site. Then they asked about being able to burn them on site, and Moritz Fire Department said no, they can't burn them on site. So then apparently, from what this gentleman told me, was that the watershed told them to take them up to this property up in Georgetown, bring them up there, and they would burn them. And then apparently the Georgetown mayor got wind of that after they'd already had like 20 or 30 loads brought up there. And
I think they got 100 loads up there right now.
well, yeah, I think you were saying 70 loads or something like that. But here's the dilemma that we have, you know, and so this is where, I asked to get together with Steve Moore from the city and with Matt from our planning office, Kirk, Dave Overbo, and I think, so we're gonna meet Thursday morning after the solid waste meeting, so I asked Frank to come to that one. But the problem is this isn't gonna just be a one-time occurrence. Every time we have a flood, the same thing's gonna happen, and we have to figure out where we're gonna be able to take these. So where a lot of these trees are coming from right now are where they cleaned up the North Broadway Bridge, which, as you know, is a county responsibility bridge. And so, that's the reason I got involved, is because it was coming from there, and we have to come up with a long-term solution, and it's gonna have to be with where do they take them, and what is even the process to hire somebody to do it, and what do they need to know, before they take the job. You can't, to make sure that, okay, well, I'll do this for this amount of money, but then you can't make assumptions on where you can bring stuff either. So, but that's just what we need to know. And I know Georgetown, Commissioner Gross told me they're concerned that, if they burn them up there, that stuff could smolder for months when you have that many trees, and that can become an issue. So we've got a problem that we've got to try to figure out. And we're going to meet Thursday.
When is that meeting Thursday?
At 9 o'clock.
Tough time making that.
Okay. Well, if you can't, then maybe
I
I'll.
won't be there on Thursday.
Oh, you won't be there on Thursday? Okay, all right. Oh, okay. Well, we'll just, Steve, we'll work it out. But we'll try to get some answers. It's, I don't know that there's gonna be any short-term solution, but we'll try to come up with something. But it's a problem when you start hearing 70 to 100 truckloads of trees. That's a lot of trees. And, we're gonna have to come up with a solution for the future too, so it's,
Community bonfire.
yeah, and a lot of marshmallows and, yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Frank, anything else? Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On Tuesday, August 20th, I attended the Adult Mental Health Local Advisory Committee meeting, and we heard a report on solar advocacy by Jen Garcia of the CAP-LP. And then we heard reports from the different providers. And Mental Health Awareness Day at the Minnesota State Fair was yesterday, Monday, August 26th. On Wednesday, August 21st, I attended the Flood Diversion Finance Committee, and we heard a presentation from Attorney Shockley about task order number 6, which will go on for the full duration of the project and could last at least 6 years, probably could be as long as 10 years. It's about a $50 million, $45 million project, I believe mostly related to monitoring progress of and reporting.
It's pretty much administration
Yeah.
of the project going out through all its.
Yep. And then on Monday, I attended the swearing in of Deputy Kleckner and the promotion of Lieutenant Johnson. And that's my report.
Yeah, I had the JPA for the diversion again, and Kevin reported on that, had the Diversion Authority meeting, and it's exciting to get Joel Paulson hired, so I don't think he can't start too soon as far as I'm concerned. And then I was also at the swearing in at the sheriff's office yesterday, which was a nice event. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last Tuesday, I attended the transfer station discussion that was mentioned by commissioners. Also, the Auto Home Placement Committee that Commissioner Gross mentioned. We did, in addition to what he spoke about, we talked about the juvenile center and the coordination between social services and the juvenile center staff on the new programs that will be offered. And then she also provided us a year-to-date through July of the number of youth in placement per day. And currently, for this year, we're averaging about 135 youth per day, and not just in our detentions, but in foster homes, anything out of the home. On Wednesday, the variety of discussions, the county attorney's office, Dara Lee from Clay County HRA, City Administrator Volkers, and I had a department head evaluation. On Wednesday, I sat in briefly for a portion of the meeting with Darren and Jennifer on the insurance review, renewal process with Lakes Country and Blue Cross Blue Shield. Our renewal for this year ended up being 5%, but with the adjustments that we made in removing triple gold, it was actually a lower increase total than what we saw last year. We had I guess we're anticipating maybe a little bit lower of a percentage, and we did kind of question them on that. And we did have in the second half of last year, our review period had about $500,000 increase of insurance requests that I guess weren't something that we could be aware of from their standpoint. And also Blue Cross Blue Shield changed their percentage and how they factor both in the review period, and so we went from review period in the first and second section from 66% to 80%, and so that was being that first period was our increase to $500,000. We saw that increase that led to that 5%. Later that day, I met with Shelley Jeffers again. I'll touch a little bit more on what we talked about here in a moment there. Later that afternoon, I attended a portion of the MCC JPA meeting, but then did have to leave to attend the harassment restraining order hearing that Commissioner Gross spoke about. Just to be aware, Tony's not here, but the judge did grant a restraining order for 2 years. He extended the coverage of that harassment order from just the courthouse to both the Family Service Center and the Law Enforcement Center. And so our citizen will have to provide a 24-hour notice to our sheriff to receive permission to come to anything on the campus. He will have 4 hours a week that he'll have the ability to come and handle court business, and if he has any other court hearings, that would be outside of that 4 hours. So, And I would like to thank Commissioner Gross for attending. We had to have a commissioner represented at the hearing, and so he had the opportunity to have that day, but we thank him for coming in and covering that. So Friday afternoon, I had a conversation with Robert Wilson. We had some discussion on a regional dispatch and how that's going, and I think that we'll see some additional conversations on that in the future. Yesterday, I also participated in the promotion and the swearing-in ceremony. Again, a great opportunity to participate. I thank the sheriff for keeping us up to date and inviting us to those ceremonies. Yesterday, I participated in new hire orientation, the diversion chair authority meeting. Commissioner Campbell's covered. I met with Joe Olson on a series of campus issues, and also met over with James O'Donnell at the Juvenile Center. The Juvenile Center is hoping to wrap up phase 2. They're scheduled to have the state inspector, or state DOC inspector, the state DOC construction inspector, and the state fire marshal on campus tomorrow. The hope is that they will receive approval to open up the additional beds, both in the secure unit and then the shifting of non-secure, which there'll be an additional bed, but they'll be here tomorrow morning. The local fire department has been through the facility. They've noted a few things, but our hope is that here within the next day or two we'll have a certificate of occupancy to get that done. They're going right down to the wire, and so hopefully we'll be able to see that. Yesterday afternoon we met had a management meeting just to cover some of the information that Darren Brook covered this morning, so our department heads were aware. Just a few other quick things. I was notified last week by the city administrator or county administrator from Becker County that they did officially make a formal request to Bowser to review the redistricting for managers in the Wild Rice watershed district. Their request is currently, because we are we're paired with Becker County, and because we're the larger county population-wise and area-wise, we make the recommendation for Becker County of who their manager would be, and their request is to have the ability to assign their own manager. And at this point, Bowser hasn't made any official response, and I'll keep the board up to date there. Also, just kind of waiting for some additional information from the city of Moorhead on the legislative tour. That's September 5th, and so I will get that information out to you as soon as I have that. And lastly, I think with the last few board meetings, we've been having a discussion about the needs for additional judicial space for our courts. We have 4 courtrooms. We're averaging 4.6, a need for 4.6 judges. Last week at board, I shared that the 7th Judicial District had sent a petition to the Minnesota Supreme Court asking for relief in the form of a referee. The referee would hold court every day, just like the judge. They would just focus a little bit of a different, they wouldn't have necessarily trials. A lot of their focus would be on civil, family, and things like that. Shelley Jeffers did notify me last week that the Supreme Court did grant the petition for the referee. And so the 7th Judicial District now is evaluating where they would like to put that referee. In talking with Shelley, their position would be they would prefer to have that referee placed in Clay County. But again, we would need to make sure that we had adequate space for that referee. I have spent a significant time with Shelley and also with Joe Olson over the last few weeks, looking at space that potentially would be available. We've gone through a series of different options that hopefully can meet those needs. And I guess the best solution that we've come up with to this point would be looking at that magistrate office down on the first floor and making that the referee room. There would be some minor things that we would need to do. With a referee comes a court reporter, a law clerk, and a need for an office for both the law clerk and the judge. And so we feel like we have a potential solution for the 2 office space. We do have 1 spot downstairs for the legal position. And so we would have to do some minor changes down there, but in comparison to some of the other options, we'd be looking at adding a door to the back of to the north side of the magistrate room and doing some painting and maybe recarpeting. And Joe's staff said they would be able to do that, so there'd be a limited cost. The magistrate, then, we would look for your permission to move the magistrate up here. They only meet scheduled every other Wednesday, and also civil commitments, if there are civil commitments kind of come up unexpectedly, but they would understand that they wouldn't be able to hold any of those hearings during our board times on Tuesday. They wouldn't be requesting any changes to either of the formats of the room downstairs or the boardroom. They would be probably utilizing where Lori's at and where I'm at for their court reporter and for people testifying. The judge would probably likely sit in the chair's position, and so that would be the request that they came forward with. In talking with Shelley and also talking with the sheriff, one of the challenges from a cost perspective would be is that there would be a request for additional court security to sit in on those hearings, and so that in looking at that as far as your decision of how you'd like to move forward. And the last piece of that would be is they would be looking for assurance that in our master planning, campus planning, that this would be viewed as a temporary solution for them, and that they would be looking for assurance from this board that we would evaluate as that as part of our master planning, with the understanding short term for this could be anywhere from 2 to 4 years. So with that, I would turn it over to Mr. Chair for any questions or comments.
Questions? Kevin?
Steve, I'd like to know what the process Becker County is taking to make that change to the membership for the Wild Rice Watershed District. What is that process that goes through that? And also, I'm assuming they're petitioning the Bowser?
Correct.
And so, what is that formal process? And, because we are impacted, what's the process? Are we notified by Bowser to give an opinion on that request? I just want to know what all those processes are for future reference.
Sure. Isn't one of our representatives living in Becker County already?
Yes, we do have a representative.
Someone we appoint, yeah.
Yeah, we appointed him, but he does live in Becker, doesn't he?
Yeah, but
It does.
I think Becker County wants to be able to make their own appointment and not have it go through Clay County.
Which is fine, but historically, we've always taken their recommendation, correct?
We have.
Right.
And they've always approved it, yes. Okay. Very good.
And so on the other, I guess the other piece with the referees courtroom position, I guess I would be looking for directives in talking with Shelley Jeffers and the 7th District on how you would, if you would be open to moving forward with the adjustments and looking at permanent solutions, or how you would like to handle that.
Well, I think this is something we've been aware of needing to happen, and it's something that your space committee is looking at, and the reality is we don't have enough space, and that's unfortunate, but I think that, I don't know if we have a choice.
We do.
This is the room that makes the most space. There have to be some collaboration in terms of.
Well, if they only meet twice a month, I can't see why they couldn't use the room. I mean, we'd probably have to clear off some of our stuff here.
Yeah, we could look at, if we put locks on your doors, you guys could keep
I don't know
things.
if that's gonna be a requirement, but
Take our candy that we
Yeah.
left over.
just the candy we're concerned about.
But coffee.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would see with this place is what this room would need from a technology standpoint to meet the criteria of the courts. That, there would have to be some changes to that, I'm sure, but that can't be that.
And we don't know for sure that they have the funding for that. do we?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we do, one of the things that we've talked with Shelley about is, right now what we're trying to do is line up the state IT people with Mark and Tim, and so we're hoping to potentially meet if the board would direct us to move forward on later this week. It's important from the state's perspective to make sure that they have the same technology that they have in the other courtrooms, so it can get to their server. And so, while not promised, they've indicated that our Tim and Mark have not done anything with any of the other courtrooms, and so we're anticipating that we may need to get some infrastructure potentially to the courtroom, but that may be pretty limited, and the state would step in from that point. They do require ITV capability for those civil commitments, because most of the people testifying don't come to the county, and so, but again, of all the plans that we came up with, the solution that we've kind of settled on, as far as what the permanent plan is going to be, there's pretty limited what we would have to do to the existing building. So, but we do hope to meet here within the next couple days to a week with the state on technology, just to confirm that.
And I think they plan on paying for some of that too, I think.
Correct. Their infrastructure, they would be looking to pay for that. And also downstairs, outfitting the different office spaces, they're not looking for the county to provide any of that. The existing, we had talked about in putting boardroom or putting a courtroom in other places, we would have had to establish a bench. They're fine with utilizing this, and they're fine with the infrastructure that they have already downstairs for the magistrate. And so, putting the door in and some carpet and some paint, which our guys can do, and we have that. We do have to have one discussion with the space of that's being currently, I won't say used, but it's within one other department, but I think we can work through that.
Jenny?
In terms of court security, do you have preliminary numbers on how much that would cost?
I have the sheriff here, I guess. We haven't, I guess, taken an individual person just based on the fact that depending on who that would be, it may vary as far as salary, but.
Right, it would just be the cost of hiring and outfitting them with uniforms, training, and whatever their salary and benefits are going to be for that new person.
They really would, I don't know, when you say hiring, I mean, if they're only here two days a week.
Well, the magistrate, Commissioner Gross, would only be here 2 days a week, and no court.
The court downstairs.
Yeah, no court security comes with the magistrate, but it would come with the referee. So we certainly, I guess today, if you feel comfortable, if the board feels comfortable moving forward and talking with Shelley and saying that we're all right with this, we would be able to come back at a later date with once the 7th District has made their official choice of Clay County. If that were to happen, then we would be able to have additional information on the deputy.
Do we need to make a motion or anything like that?
Sure, if we can get a motion, that would be.
I'll make a motion.
Have a second?
What's the motion for, what the?
To
I would say the motion
facilitate this.
to provide the 7th District, the board's approval to move forward in providing additional space for additional courtroom.
If we have a choice, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I think there is a choice, but the choice isn't a very good one. Ultimately, this, when you hear of how backed up the courts are in Clay County, And with the limited funds at the state level, if, you know, if the 7th district doesn't get it, they're gonna give that money to another district. And that's just gonna keep us further behind. So, you know, it's kind of a no-win situation, but it's something that we have to do, you know, so.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
All right, that concludes my report.
Anything else?
The sheriff is up, the sheriff. Do they need something, or?
No,
No,
we
just
just,
here to support. our-
Very good, okay.
The county administrator.
He needs support, yes, very good.
Colleen, anything else for us? Colleen, anything else for us? Lori, anything?